This is recording.
Has that happened to you? Have you started without recording?
Definitely.
Same to me.
I've had some interesting situations. I had a whole episode where I forget who it was. It's weird that I forgot who it was because of how much work went into it. But there's an episode of the show that I lost my vocals because I have two tracks.
So did you have to re-track by hearing in the other guys?
I sat there and listened to the episode and re-recorded myself asking questions. I forget which guest it was, but it was big enough to where it was worth the work.
You had to do it, yeah.
I was like, I cannot not have this episode. Like, this is something I need. And I sat there like a lunatic, recording myself laughing at things. Oh, really? like, oh shit! What am I doing? No.
That's very funny.
I'm keeping this in. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the RRBG podcast. I am here. I don't know how to say your Mcgachy.
You got it, man. You know how many people get that wrong? You got it, Mcgachy.
Mcgachy. I'm here with Matt Mcgachy of Cryptopsy. Am I saying that right too? Cryptopsy. Damn it. I almost had both of them down. And also Vox&Hops, which is an awesome podcast that I just did yours. We just did part 1, and this is part 2. And I'm a few beers in, so I'm just warning all of our listeners, this is going to be a doozy.
Cheers.
Cheers to you, man.
I just cracked this. It's a new one from the episode that we just finished together. This is from Brewski, Pub Brewski, one of Montreal's sickest craft beer bars, right in downtown in the old port. It's so touristy, and they just opened this new tap room 3 years ago. This is their double IPA test with a strange yeast, a Verdun, I don't know what that is, a German yeast with citron and mosaic hops, as we were talking about just in the last one.
Oh,
yeah. So it comes in the crowler. I
like the crowler with the tank, the bright tank.
Yeah, they're awesome. They're super cool. I just had them on the podcast.
Very cool.
Super cool. The crowlers have become a reality since the pandemic, because before that they would have 24 taps to have to supply, so they were doing way more cans and having a lot more fun with crowlers.
I think crowlers are way better than growlers. I mean,
oh yeah. There's no. You don't have to drink it within 7 days.
Yeah, it's nuts. And I mean, obviously, depends on what beer is in there. There's some. The brewery out here in Placentia, California, has issues because some of their beers do not ferment well in the crowler. It's
the fruited sours, right?
Yeah,
they explode.
The Brucicle ones explode.
Yeah,
so they can't do it. And
I saw this picture of this dude's fridge with just the fruit puree all over the fridge everywhere,
slushy everywhere.
Yeah. So I had a friend that bought some beers and got them dropped off here, and I totally put them in a garbage bag in my fridge. And I was like, because I love the brewery, but I don't trust that they have it down just yet. So I wanted to keep them cold for my friend, and I totally put them in a garbage bag and put them in my fridge because I wasn't cleaning up that mess.
Yeah, man, it's a good call. That's a pro move. Not that
my fridge couldn't use a deep clean, but whatever.
Yeah, I love their Brucicle beers. It's not beer, I'm not gonna. It's a daiquiri. But it's I'm an alcoholic, and if you hang around brewers long enough, you'll learn that all brewers from major breweries, all they drink really is lagers and cocktails.
Yeah,
and they don't care about your whatever pastry beer. Whatever it is you're doing. The hazy beers, like that's one that I always had an issue with because we worked so hard to clarify beer. What are we doing? What are we doing, guys?
The hazier, the better. The hazier, the better now.
They're delicious. Don't get me wrong, but it's orange juice. Like
it's the sugar. It's the sugar. I've been saying it for a year or two. Sugar is driving the craft beer market. Pastry stouts, the fruited sours, the hazy boys. They're all sweet, delicious things that make you feel good with, on multiple levels. The sugar hits that part of your brain, and then the alcohol helps as well.
Sure. Yeah. And I tell people this all the time. Like, you think you're a craft beer nerd, but you're just a fat ass.
That's why you got to fight the hops.
Yeah, man. You're just a fatty that likes delicious smoothies. Like, I'm into it too. I'm a fatty. I like the smoothies. But don't come at me with, this is a great beer. It's not. It's a good drink. It's a great drink. Sure. That's not beer.
I always start my night off with a nice crispy boy, something clean, something clear, something crisp. I did it tonight. It was fantastic.
What's your go-to crispy boy?
Oh, there's a crazy great brewery from here in Montreal called Brasserie Silo, just killing it. And they do not care for trends. They do not care at all. I visited just this past week, actually. I dropped by because I was in the area, and anytime I'm near any brewery, I just have to stop by. And I went in the front, and they were closed. So what does the metalhead in me do? Let's go around back.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, guys? You got any beer back?
It's basically what I did. Yeah. The brewer was there. He knows me, so he brought me in and gave me a little tour of his new facilities, seeing those new lager tanks, the sideways lager tanks. Yeah. Love it. Yeah, killing. They don't give a fuck about hype. I like that.
Have you worked at a brewery or
Never. No, I'm just an avid craft beer fan. Have been since 2013. Nice. Just the more that I'm doing it, my first brew going into a brewery, like actually brew day, was when I had my first collab for my 1-year anniversary at Le Fermenteur, which are super metal brewery here in Quebec, in L'Assomption, just outside of Montreal. And I had never been there. I'd never had that smell, the beautiful farmy smell of a brewery, which I love it. That was the first time I've done that. I like craft beer. I like going and experiencing new things. There's one really when I really started exploring a lot, this place called Brasserie Haricana in Montreal, and I would just go in, I would try everything.
Nice.
I just want to taste everything, just little pours. And by the end of the day, the server, she was like, "You've had everything." And I'm like, "Yes, I did." And it was fantastic.
That's awesome, man. I mean, yeah, that same love is what got me to work in the industry. Like I had that same passion for it, but I took it a step further with, like, you know what, I do. It's a funny story. I should have said this on your show, but I'll say it here. It's a weird, like, serendipitous kind of thing that happened where I was out to dinner with my wife. We weren't married at the time, but we're sitting there eating, and I look over and I see a Dogfish Head beer rep. He was wearing his Dogfish. Yeah, he was wearing his Dogfish, work shirt. He had a little cooler with him. And I remember sitting there, and I remember pointing at that guy. I'm like, wonder what he's doing. Mm-hmm. And my wife's like, he looks like he's a beer rep. I'm like, I want his job. Because he's literally getting paid to sit here and drink beer with this bar owner.
Yeah.
And I'm not fucking kidding. I got his job. Like, his job. I went up to him and I met the guy. I got his name. I got his card. We started talking. We exchanged numbers. He invited me to come out to a brewery, like a beer fest, just to volunteer. He was like, "You want to just come pour some beers and have some beers for free?" I'm like, yeah, I'm always down for free beer. Let's go to that. So we did a couple beer fests, and eventually he left and got promoted to like a brewery, and I got his route.
No way. That's crazy.
So it was like some weird, like, existential experience where I'm like, I want his job, and then I got it. Like, his exact job.
You got to verbalize what you want in this world.
Right. Yeah. So that. Have you ever thought about maybe going to work at a brewery since you have this passion for it? Like, or maybe even starting your own brewery?
We did. We talked. My wife is also very involved in the creative process of everything that happens in my life. She is the sticky wall that catches my good ideas. So
okay.
Before the podcast really started, there was a discussion. I was going through this moment at work. I'm an early childhood educator. I take care of young children. I'm also in Cryptopsy, who has a rigorous touring schedule when there isn't a global pandemic. So we were imagining, I'm very lucky at my work situation that I'm allowed to go on tour and come back and still have a job. Like, a lot of musicians don't have that. So I've had that for 10 years now at one child care establishment. I'm very, very lucky. So there was a moment where I wanted to do a jump, something different, but there was always that, but what brewery is going to take me for 3 weeks to 3 months to...
Right. Yeah.
I'm not consistent. I thought about a beer store as well, because there's a bunch of very prominent, very cool beer stores here in Montreal that I frequented and would like to work at or wanted to work at. But I just jumped into the podcast instead and kept touring with Cryptopsy and kept taking care of little kids.
No, I mean, hey, at the end of the day, you have to take care of your life and your wife and your family and everything. So it's hard to give up something solid like that you gives you the opportunity to do what you want, what you love with the band.
Very lucky, lucky, because most of my members don't have that.
Yeah. There is a job position that maybe, I don't know, you didn't mention that maybe you don't know about, or maybe you do know about, but did you know that there's a job position you can get paid to be a consultant for a bar for their tap list?
That would be very fun. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know that. I was like, that sounds perfect. I go in there like a beer expert and tell them, this is what you should have. And they listen to you. And then every week, all you do is like, oh, this week I'm ordering the beers for your beer tap this week. So you contact each distributor and you're like, I want this, this, and this. And that's it. And the way that they justify that kind of position, the way I was justifying it was that you need to have you need to have one of each style. You can't have 10 IPAs. It doesn't work.
I can get away with at least 2 nowadays.
2, maybe even 3. You can have an IPA, a double, and a hazy.
Or a milkshake. Definitely
or a
hazy.
Milkshake, yeah. So, but it's a matter of keeping your tap list balanced to have everything to hit every market, and also good customer service, like educated bartenders that know what they're serving. I'll come in and I will educate your staff. So that's how you justify it.
It's funny because this past summer, before the pandemic, during the pandemic, but in Montreal, the summer was a little bit more lenient here in Montreal. My good friends at Turbo House, which is a bar ran by an excellent humans, shout out to Michelle and Sergio, we were actually going to do the Vox&Hops craft beer list.
Nice.
Where I was bringing in exactly that, teaming up with Montreal's best craft beer breweries and bringing their products to Turbo House to up their craft beer list, because I wasn't satisfied and I thought that he could do better.
Well, hey, hook up your friends for this one, but that's something you could charge money for. People get paid for that.
Okay.
It's nuts.
It's very interesting.
Yeah. I'm going to give you another pro tip. Earlier on your show, I gave the Hangover Cure. So in this new pro tip is when you're switching beer styles and you're drunk and you don't really have a lot of access to new glassware, you grab your glass of water and you grab your beer glass and you pour some water in there and you swish it around and you drink it. Don't be a kid about it. Just drink it.
I will drink some water. I'll take that part of the tip because I knew that tip.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, no, it's gross. Like, shut up. It's just watered down beer.
No, it's not gross.
Getting some hydration. No. And it cleans it out for this stout that I'm about to open. This Fremont B-Bomb.
Dude, I've had that.
Coffee cinnamon barrel-aged B-Bomb.
I've had that. I had that with Charles from Abysmal Dawn on my episode with him.
Nice.
That's crazy.
Is great, man. Those are some great dudes. I need to get them on the show because Barnett's good friends with them. I'm good friends with Barnett, and he's been talking about it. So I'm like, I should get it on. I should get them on. So let's get a little bit of this action.
I remember enjoying it very much.
I hope it's not bad. I found this. I've had this beer before. I just hope it's not infected. You know
yes. What I
mean? Yeah. I found this liquor store near me. It's about 5 minutes away. And they have some hidden treasures, man. Like they had this in there. This is 2018. And
that's looks like the bottle that I had, honestly, because I was in 2019 when I had my chat with Charles.
Well, this is I got this 2 days ago.
That's insane. That's
on
awesome.
The shelf at this liquor store, and they also have some Cycle Brewing, which is from Tampa, is one of the many hype breweries that I thankfully, because I worked at Cigar City, I had. Cycle and Cigar City had this great relationship during Hunapoo Day. So I got to have all their beers for years. But they don't distribute out here in LA, and they had a bottle of their Rare DOS on the shelf. And I'm just like, what is going on? Who is this beer? Who orders the beers here? I need to know.
It's Drunk Eddie.
Yeah, right. It's so funny because I have that weird, when you do something for long enough, you find yourself kind of like asking questions that a normal consumer wouldn't ask. Like anybody, beer freaks are like, oh, cool, it's a beer. It's barrel aged. Sounds
Oh,
good.
yeah.
But I'm like, wait a minute. There's no distribution out here. Where are you getting that from? Like, did you go to Tampa and you're bringing it here and selling it illegal? Are you bootlegging right now? Is that what's happening? Explain it to me. So yeah, but I do that at live shows now too. I spent so many years doing stage production that when I go to a live show now, I'm just looking at the lighting rigs and like, oh, that's a really good setup, man. Really good PA system you guys got going on here. I should just be there for the show, but I'm not. So about the show, speaking about shows, speaking about live music, the band, I'm going to mess this up again.
Cryptopsy.
Cryptopsy. I'm Cuban. Mind me, please.
Like a cryptopsy.
Cryptopsy. So Cryptopsy, extreme metal band. I've heard a few of your tracks through the years, and I started looking up notes to write about, talking to you and everything. And I noticed this article where they talk about how you guys were trying to introduce clean vocals into the band, and it caused this issue. Oh, yeah. And it's something that I find so fascinating as a musician, as well as like when the band starts singing, like fans, what is this elitism that like, oh, he's singing? This is awful now. Like, wait, what? But singing is pretty. What are we doing? Why is that a problem? Can you help me?
Cryptopsy is an iconic death metal band. They released in 1996, None So Vile. I'm not on that record, obviously. I'm far too young to be on that record.
You joined in 2007?
Yeah. So 1996, Cryptopsy hits out of the park. None So Vile. It's a killer record, just legendary at this point. Hall of Fame record in decibel, influenced countless bands. Lord Worm was an entity, the vocalist before me, just a monster on stage, a monster vocally, a master lyricist. And then, this was released by a small label from Europe. They toured Canada a few times. They had like this buzz going on, the tape trading 90s scene. They came down, they played some shows in the States, and then Lord Worm couldn't do it, quit. Okay. They found a replacement. Lord Worm had met him, had like vetoed him, had vetted him, not vetoed, vetted him. Mike DeSalvo comes in. He's far more from the Boston scene, way more hardcore, but excellent vocalist, but completely different from Lord Worm. So right then, Cryptopsy was like, fans were like betrayed. A large amount of them. So they were like, where's my Lord Worm? Where's my None So Vile? Because the band also didn't rest on their laurels on Whisper Supremacy, which was Mike's first record. They decided to change things. Cryptopsy is never satisfied with just repeating the past. They always want to do something new, something fresh. Whatever they're listening to is highly influential in what's going on, in what's coming out of them. They're learning new techniques, especially John, the guitarist, and Flo, the drummer, pushing each other just to let's be more extreme. How can we make this more extreme? Let's make it different than everyone else. They were never satisfied. So they put out Whisper Supremacy. All the Lord Worm fans were super pissed, but not all of them, and say like 60%. And they hated Whisper Supremacy, but it was the first Century Media release, so it had far more world grasp. So a lot of people's first influence to Cryptopsy was Whisper Supremacy, and then they went backwards and were confused about this more square yet totally fucked up None So Vile album, which has just the sickest grooves. And so it becomes like this like cohesive ball that's rolling. They do And Then You'll Beg with Mike, and then Mike leaves the band. Someone else comes in for a short moment, and then Lord Worm comes back. Once Was Not. I think it was 2000, and I should know the date. 2002. I could be wrong. 2004. I could be wrong. Lord Worm comes back.
2003.
There you go. It was in the middle.
I got the Wikipedia timeline pulled up.
Lord Worm comes back. Once Was Not. Here he is. The guy is back. Everyone's favorite vocalist is back, and they released an album without John Levasseur as a main song composer. He had written a bit of it, but not all of it, because he was very, very involved with that. And that album had some success, but not as much as the previous ones. And then Lord Worm had to leave again. And here they go. They said, let's do something different. Flo was always being inspired. Flo and Eric always being inspired. Eric, the bassist, by new things, was super into Deftones, still is, loves them. He wanted to incorporate, loves Mike Patton, so wanted to incorporate clean vocals into the band. So this is how I get the phone call, because I had just recorded with Chris Donaldson, the guitarist at the time, and Chris was showing off his new mixes because he recorded my old band, and the guys were driving to a show in Toronto, and Chris is like, listen to this band I just produced, because he's basically trying to get the next Cryptopsy record gig to produce them, because this is what Chris does. He works as a producer, and he's fantastic. So he shows off this thing, and Flo's like, oh, this is what I want. I want this guy. So I get this phone call. I say, no, I don't want to join the band. You're too extreme. I want to make it on my own. And then a few months later, after having played with Cryptopsy, I was like, I could do this. And I called them back. I had no idea what I was doing. We did The Unspoken King. It was out of left field. People were taken aback. It was a completely different record. It wasn't a Cryptopsy record. It was, so many chefs in the kitchen, so many people trying to decide what style of record this was going to be. John Levasseur was not there at all to help, drive the ship to say, this is Cryptopsy's sound. So it's a mess of a record, and I understand why the fans are not happy with it. I'm not happy with it. I absolutely did my best, but I did not understand what being Cryptopsy's vocalist meant at the time. It took me many years to discover that, and I'm finally satisfied that I'm actually doing what I'm supposed to be doing, in the past few years, honestly.
Dude, it's a crazy story, because fans don't really, I'm sure super fans do dig in that deep, but also they don't really take into consideration like how crazy that scenario is. That's a weird scenario to be in.
It was crazy.
I can't imagine. I did a obviously not to the level of complexity of that situation, but when I joined Dissever, they had a different singer. Like they had a different guy, and it was a different situation. Like he wasn't very good. I'm not gonna beat around the bush. Nobody liked what he was doing, and I took over some of the songs that they had, and the band was like, don't sing him like he used to, because he sucked. So I had the task of sitting down and like erasing in my brain the vocals that are there, because they didn't have just the tracks. Like they had, hey, this is the album we recorded with him, and I had to take that home and like try to ignore his vocals and come up with new shit on top of it. So that's a shitty situation. But what you went through, and not just that, just having an established band like that where, they have already a base of fans that are so
But two bases of fans, the Mike DeSalvo fans and the Worm fans, and I had to make them. I sort of brought them together because they both hated me. So for the first time in 10 years,
bring them together with hate.
Cryptopsy fans could finally agree on one thing: that Matt sucked. It's not true. I get a lot of people coming up to the shows, when we were playing, saying, "I actually really like The Unspoken King. I was afraid to tell my friends," which I think is funny. And nowadays a lot of people are incorporating clean vocals in extreme metal.
Yeah, dude, I don't get it. I don't get why that's a problem. I know maybe I may sound ignorant to some kind of like metal encyclopedia.
It was just such a precious thing. It was Cryptopsy is so extreme and not supposed to be something in the mainstream. So it was their precious baby that was supposed to be just this vile creature forever. And
but
we understand
how is having melody and vocals mainstream? That doesn't. If you guys sounded like pop music, if you guys all of a sudden sounded like Korn or Nickelback, then okay, I get the hate. That's a weird change. You know what I mean?
I think it was just too many disappointments in a row.
Yeah.
And now, the lineup that we have now in Cryptopsy is the longest standing lineup in its history.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. If you think about that, like since 2012, no, even more than that, me, Ollie, Chris, and Flo are there. And we have, throughout the whole history of Cryptopsy, it's changed so frequently. And we are the longest standing lineup, and we're still working on a new record right now. It's awesome.
That's great. And that people don't think about, like, you hear this story and you're like, oh, you're the new guy. But you've been there since 2007. It's 2021. Yeah, but
I've been in the band longer than any other vocalist.
That's
but
weird,
Derek from Sepultura is still the new singer of Sepultura.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. It's weird. I've never had that situation. Like, yeah, I get a little burnt when it happens. Like, I think maybe, like, I got a little burnt with Metallica when Jason Newsted left. And, I've never really ever accepted Trujillo, even though he's a superior bass player, because he uses his fingers. And no offense to Jason Newsted, but that's a better bass player. I just still don't accept it. To me, it's like, have fun, guys. Enjoy what you're doing, I guess.
His introduction album wasn't the best foot forward.
There's that too. Yeah, there's that too. But I was going to ask you, this band is working on new material. You guys are planning something
we are. It's been a year today, just about. We were in, or tomorrow actually, we were in a cabin in the woods when Trump pulled the plug on all international flights.
Oh no! Did you get stuck in the woods?
No, we were fine, but it was crazy because we had Wi-Fi. It was a nice place. We were working on new material, drinking a bunch of craft beers, eating some nice food, just totally isolated, total cocoon, writing new material, which is going to be a new record, which will come out on a record label for the first time since 20. We've been independent since 2012, so this is something new. We inked the deal. I signed it that week. We still haven't announced who it's with. We can't talk about it. It's been a year that I'm saying I can't talk about this, but I want to, but we can't. And
I'm going to take a guess between Nuclear Blast or Metal Blade.
We shall see. And we kept working throughout the year. We tried doing some Zoom writing because we don't necessarily live right next to each other. Okay. And that worked for a bit, but it's annoying with the lagging. And the guys have started working together and the material is written. So I'm excited to start diving into this first full length since 2012. We dropped 2 EPs since then, but to do a full length, I'm very excited to dive into a full album of content. A concept record, as always. I like doing concept records. It always excites me to, have a story that can be expanded and brought into different aspects throughout a whole album's worth of content. I love that.
That's awesome, man. I mean, is it all melodic singing now?
it's only melodic singing. Actually, I've switched things out. It's just all falsetto. And
we're going back to the power metal days. Let's go.
I doubt there'll be any clean vocals. If there's ever clean vocals, which, there may be, but it won't be anything like what's happened before. It'll be something obscure. The album is very dark. It's very Cryptopsy, but it's always new and different. Chris has really found his feet. At first, he felt like an imposter trying to mimic John Lepassar's writing techniques because that's basically who he came in to replace, to play his parts. And we play so many songs from back in the day. It's like you can't do a Cryptopsy set without playing some Slit Your Guts, some Crown of Horns from None So Vile. You have to play those songs. The fans want those songs. So right. He's like found his footing. He's found his own identity while remaining true to the Cryptopsy sound. It's crazy. The new material is amazing. I can't wait to start digging in and showing the world what we've got going on.
It's perfect timing. I mean, a few bands have put out music during this time, and it's kind of an awkward time because they can't go on tour, all that stuff. But, you guys are, by the time all this wraps up, I'm assuming, and comes out, and the label and everything, I'm assuming we'll be all vaccinated and reopened by then. Right? That's the way I see it.
Yeah,
we're getting that close. I know that, the talk is that May is the time period. So if it's past May, then we're looking good for going on tour and all that, right?
Oh, absolutely. And it's going to be much later now. I don't see us playing any shows until much later, until early 2022 easily.
Are you peeing into the glass right now?
No. Why would I do that? That would be madness.
I hear water.
That would be madness. I do have to pee. Can we go pee?
Yeah, let's pee. Let's take a break.
Yeah, thank you. That's awkward. I apologize.
All right. So, back from a little pee. I'm still drinking this Fremont B-Bomb. I also have another can of this Fremont or Carl Strauss Modern Times here.
Nice.
I also have a can of Killcliff Recovery Drink, which has been super helpful for me. Thank you, Cliff, for all the stuff you do for me. It's awesome. And also, thank you, Sheath Underwear, for supporting my balls. Anyway. So, Matt, the band's working on new music. I'm excited to hear that. You also recently did 2 children's books. Tell me about this. How did this happen? How does a singer of an extreme metal band end up writing children's books?
Oh, well, I work in early childhood education. So my wife and I, which we collaborate on a lot of things, she had this idea that for many years that she wanted to work on a children's book with me. Okay. So she went one step further and just started collaborating with someone else called Jeannie Bond, and they started this company called Mycelia Media, it's basically their book. I just consulted on both of them. Okay. So we would go when the pandemic struck. I came back from that trip with Cryptopsy, writing the new record, and it was like lockdown here in Montreal. So we were home. I'd have to work a bit, online stuff for work, but for the rest of the day, we were just the kids. We'd go for walks, and we were like brainstorming this idea that she wanted to have a children's book about coping with social isolation. So that became Today We're Staying Home, which is where most of the book is all things that actually happened in the first few weeks of the pandemic, building blanket forts in the house and just basically enjoying the positive things that can happen in a day when you're stuck inside with your family and children, and just trying to see the positivity of that. So that's what that became. The second book's concept grew also very quickly after the first one. There was the whole rainbow movement where everyone was drawing rainbows and putting them in their windows. So we would walk around, and our kids, to motivate them to keep walking a bit further, we would hunt for rainbows. So this is where Hidden Rainbow came. And then it elaborated into a way to help children and adults and everyone express their emotions through art, which is really what that book is about. And it's had great reception. Jeannie outdid herself on both books, but the newest one, Hidden Rainbow, the artwork is phenomenal, just killer. That one just came out. Super excited about the response from the metal community, about my involvement in it, and the concept of the books. It's super cool. And we're excited to keep working on future things.
That's awesome, man. That's really, that's not something you expect ever from an extreme metal musician. But also it's such a relief and a kind of a refreshing thing to hear, that, it's similar to like when you see pictures of George Corpse Grinder at Target with plush toys. Like it's like, that's awesome. Like, that's such a complete, not opposite, but just kind of a weird, you don't expect it from a metal, extreme metal musician. But it's important, especially if you're a parent, and especially if you're in your situation where that's your day job. You're taking care of kids. Like, I understand how important that is. And, everybody, I guess not everybody has kids, but everybody who has kids understands how important that is. So I appreciate that from you, man. That's great. More children's books, I guess, in the future from you. But
we're working on some stuff, many more different projects as well.
Like animations? I feel like that's where that goes next.
Yeah. We're definitely, there's talks about it. It's hard. We just need to find the right people to collaborate with, for sure.
Yeah, and it's animation's always been a big part of my childhood anyway, and a lot of kids, that's the thing these days. That's like the new babysitter is like, here's the iPad with the cartoons, watch them, and hopefully people are being careful of what they're giving their kids to watch. Obviously, it's your choice, but be careful.
Yes.
That's the least I can ask for.
I would encourage them to watch it before they let them watch it.
Exactly. Don't just be like, oh, what are the kids watching? South Park? Yeah, go ahead. That's not for kids. No, that's for me.
Autoplay on YouTube will take you anywhere.
That's true too. The recommendations. It's important to, I guess, cater or set up your playlists for them. And I think they do a decent job. I know YouTube's been doing a lot better. They've been asking me if like my content is for kids now.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, no, it's not. I'm drinking. I'm saying curse words. Like, this is not for kids.
No, definitely not.
But your podcast, Vox&Hops too, is it's doing great. I get impressed. I see it on my IG feed. I'm like, oh shit, he got this guy, or and it's actually, you mentioned how like it was kind of like, you called me the start of it, whatever. I still like, I'm nothing, and when I see your podcast doing certain things, I'm like, I want to do that. I want to collaborate and make more beers. I want to have that guest on, and it's not like in a hateful, jealous kind of way. It's just kind of like, oh, that's awesome. That's inspiring. It makes me motivated to do more. So what was it that got you to want to do a podcast in the first place?
I was staying home with my daughter. She was 2 years old at the time. I had taken a year off from work, a sabbatical, just to stay home to keep her out of daycare so that we can keep her, just with us a little bit longer. And living in Montreal, the days got very long, especially during the winter when the sun would set and, at 4:00 it's dark here in Montreal. So we were inside. My wife would get home past 7. We'd eat dinner at that point. So those 3 hours got so long. We don't watch TV with my kids. We do minimal screen time even up to now. So I started listening to podcasts to just pass the time for myself. I jumped into the Jasta Show initially because I was a guest on the Jasta Show with Flo just a few months before my sabbatical started. So I was like, oh, let's start there and see who he's got. What is this podcast? I know Ollie, my bassist, really enjoyed it. So I started listening to that. I jumped quickly into the X-Men with Doc Coyle because I loved God Forbid back in the day. So I knew that name. I wanted to listen to that. And then I found Off Camera with Sam Jones, and I really enjoyed his interview style. He was patient. He really listened. He seemed well prepared. And from there, I started just thinking, I want to do a podcast. I think this is awesome. I think this is exciting. And from my wife's birthday dinner, one of our business meetings, throwing ideas against a wall, she said, you should just do it and put craft beer, my love of craft beer, asking questions to people into one thing. And that night, the name was born, Vox&Hops. So
it's a great name.
At first, it was Vox and Locks because I have really long hair. And it quickly switched to Vox&Hops. So
yeah, Vox and Locks also makes me hungry.
so Vox&Hops, and then that was in April of 2018. April was when the whole podcast name was born, concept. I started recording guests in August of that year. I recorded 10 episodes because I saw some YouTube or Google thing saying that I should launch with 10 episodes in my bag, which I did. I recorded 10 episodes and I launched at the end of October 2018. And I just released today, episode 241.
That's crazy. You've started after me, but you have more episodes. Like it's wild. It shows that you've been grinding it out. Like I for a while in the beginning, I was only doing like one a month because I really didn't know what I was doing. I wish I would have heard that whole idea of like get 10 in the bag. I just have this one idea. Let's just do it and see what happens.
That's where Jessica comes in. Jessica's my producer, the Vox&Hops producer. She helps me focus my ideas into something that makes sense and doable and realistic. And I'm happy to have her on my team and is super supportive.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I mean, it shows when you have a team with you. Like I've been doing this on my own. I've tried to reach out to some people to see if they want to collaborate and be part of the team, but there's no team. It's just me. And but I can see it when a podcast has a team. I can see it, and there's a level of professionalism and quality and production to your show. Not only that, but also just like the producing of beers that you're doing and collaborating with breweries. The level of guests that you're getting is insane. So it just shows that you're obviously you're doing it right. You're doing doing the right thing.
I love how we have like the same guests but different guests at the same time.
Yeah,
it's like I got Trey from Mr. Bungle and you got Trevor. Right. I think that's super cool.
I don't know if that's I know I try to make an effort because I've noticed that there are a couple of other shows as well in our like stratosphere that are somewhat similar. Like you got Vox&Hops. There's also Brutally Speaking, and there's Talk to Me with Joshua. Like we're all like a little community of, we're kind of doing the same thing, but not really. We're doing it our own ways. And I try and make an effort when I see like, oh, you had Trey, I'm gonna have Trevor. Very cool. I make an effort to like reach out for specific members that, because I don't want to encroach on. I'm not trying to make this isn't a competition. You know what I mean? It's a community. Like one of the reasons that podcasts have done so well, I think, is because it's a community. Like you look at, when you look at other podcasters, maybe not in music, but like in comedy or something like that, there's always there's unity. Everybody's guesting on each other's shows and doing things and I want to build that with what we're trying to do, which is music and beer and comedy, and like trying to, it's all about community. And I really appreciate the love that we all share for each other, I think.
I love that too. I love the sense of community in the podcast world. That's why I try to collaborate with as many people as possible. Yeah. Bringing, especially during the pandemic when we can't be with other people and connect with other people. I think that the podcasting world and collaborating with the most of us is the best thing that we can do right now.
Definitely, man. And that's something that's also one of the main appeals to me of craft beer. At least when I started, it was a community thing. It wasn't really about the hype beer and like, oh, let's all stand in line. There was still lines, obviously, for Hunapoo and Cycle Brewing and all that stuff. It's different. But I'm talking about like a brewery that's dropping the same beer every week, and there's a line every week. Like and it's not even about drinking that beer. It's about trading that beer to someone else so that you can get a different beer and then maybe get that beer and sell it and get some bourbon at the end of the day, because obviously that's what they're doing. It's insane. Like, so I appreciate the old times when I was in the industry where it was, let's get together, 20 people, everybody brings a bottle and we all try each other's different beers that we've found from different places in the world. And that community is very apparent also in metal and music, like heavy music.
Big trading.
Yeah. Everybody's together. And that's something that I think one of the reasons why I started my show, and one of the reasons why you started your show, and without knowing about my show and without knowing, it makes sense. The idea makes sense that the metal community, the beer community, and the podcast community all just makes sense. We're all in that same boat together. Which
is why Heavy Montreal, which is Montreal's biggest metal promoter, just jumped on to become a partner on the podcast. I had one of the main dudes as a guest early on, episode 20 something. He loved the experience. He's like, metal and beer, it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah.
So once the pandemic hit, they hit me up and they were like, do you want to like be the voice of Heavy Montreal through this pandemic? And I was like, let's do it. Sure. I'm super stoked.
That's fantastic, man. That's great. I wish there was something like that out here. Like, there's not a lot of, there's certain things that happen, but it feels out of reach for me. Like if I'm not part of a label already, you know what I mean? It doesn't. And by the way, I don't know if you've heard this, but I saw this the other day with, I forget his name. The podcast is called Peer Pleasure Pod.
Yeah. Dewey.
Yes, Dewey. And he's on the label.
He's on my label.
Yeah, like podcasts are getting signed by labels.
Yeah, the Sound Talent Media Network.
That's nuts. Like that's a genius idea. I think that's definitely. I think podcasting does provide maybe the same amount, if not more, level of content that a musician does. Because a musician puts out an album once a year. If you're good. If you're really good and you're on your shit, you're doing an album a year. If not, you're doing one every 4 years, 5 years. Whereas podcasts, it's every week, every 2 weeks, or at the most a month, every month. But you're still putting out content frequently, and I feel like it's an opportunity. I think that's the future of podcasting. It's just podcasting getting signed to labels.
Yeah, Sound Talent is super cool. It's Sound Talent Group is one of North America's biggest booking agencies. They book Lamb of God. They book a bunch of amazing metal bands, and it's ran by really cool, hip people that have all basically the Jerry Maguires of other booking agencies. They left and they took their artists with them,
Okay.
And formed this together. And through Heavy Montreal, because Heavy Montreal was pitching me to get some guests this past summer to Sound Talent group saying, we want to interview some of your roster. And they were like, we're actually setting up this network and this podcast sounds perfect. So that's how discussions started for myself with them. And I'm stoked to be there. You got the Punk Rock MBA on there, the X-Men with Doc Coyle, which is one of the podcasts that influenced me starting a podcast. So I was very stoked to be there. When I started the podcast, I wanted to be on Jabberjaw Media. Okay. That was like a goal of mine. Okay. It's like I want to be on because a bunch of podcasts that I listened to was on them. So I wanted to be there. And then they ended up joining Sound Talent Media. So I was stoked when that was all announced. And we just... Drinks with Johnny just jumped on from Johnny Christ from Avenged Sevenfold. Just jumped on the network. It's cool. It's I'm stoked to see where it goes. It's very, very new. It's still very young. It's a totally new world for these people dealing with running a podcast network. I'm excited to see where it grows, but I'm happy to be there.
That's awesome, dude. I love it. I think it's a great idea. I think that's the future of podcasting is something like that. I would ask to be like, hey, hook me up, but there's already Vox&Hops. There's no room for another rock and roll beer guy in your roster.
But I think, up.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'll start a new show. What's up? Let's go.
Rock and roll and hops. No,
rock and roll hops, bro. No. But yeah, I feel that is definitely a good thing that you guys are doing. I think. More power to you guys. And I'm there to help if anything is needed. If I can provide any help, I don't know what kind of help I do, or I have, but it's just one of those things. Like for my podcast, I feel that I've branched out so much now that there's no real, it's not a rock and roll show anymore. We having you on, like you're in a band and you're in a podcasting and you're into beer. It makes perfect sense. But I've also been bringing in comedians or like athletes
but they don't have one aspect, because that's what I've been dancing around with. As long as they have one of the aspects, then I feel comfortable that they fall on brand.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think about that. For me personally, I don't, but I feel that is important. I think that is one of the detriments to my show would be that there is no brand. It's like I just talk to who the brand is me, and if I like it, then I'm going to talk to them, and if you don't like it, I'm sorry.
You can skip that episode.
You can skip that episode. There's a lot of other ones, but I do like that there is you're on brand. Like if it has to be either beer or music of some kind, and it does bring some cohesiveness, and it makes it easier. Really, it makes it easier for you to find the guests because you have a specific area to look at. So, I mentioned on your show that I wanted to do a TV show. Is there any other aspirations outside of, what you're doing with the children's books and possible animations and all that? Is there something for the podcast that you're planning or working on? Some kind of special event, maybe like something that I always wanted to do.
I'm working on a monster event.
Oh yeah.
I would love to talk about it, and I will tell you all about it once we stop recording, but it's too early to announce, but it's very cool. It is very metal. It is very craft beer. I have, I was counting actually before, there's 150 people involved. Oh. Which my Jessica was like, we should do a Zoom with everyone there so that everyone can see just how many people are actually involved in this. And I was like, we counted how many people were. I was like, okay, maybe we'll do the Zoom. Maybe we'll do the Zoom thing just to get that shot. Yeah. But it's cool. There's definitely Thirsty Thursdays I want to give a shout out to. I started doing just Zoom hangouts every Thursday a year ago now. Initially, it was just my friends, bands I've toured with, Vox&Hops alumni. I would just invite everyone every Thursday, and then I opened it up to the public a few months after, and then it became, we were like 50 people on Zoom, just hanging out, drinking beer every Thursday. I did this from March of last year until August, and then I started doing it once a month where I host the first Thursday of every month, a live interview with a past guest of the podcast, the Vox&Hops alumni. From this group, there's this whole community that has grown. It's absolutely amazing. The Thirsty Thursday gang. There's a Facebook group for it. There's a Discord for it. It's amazing. And people just friends. There's another podcast that was born from it. Whispers from the Void, a dude from Boston, a dude from Quebec City, have started a podcast because they met at Thirsty Thursday. Wow. It's incredible. So that's something that is definitely worth shouting. I could have paid a marketing person to come in and to try to like create a community for me. Right. And they would have never created something as organic and as beautiful as Thirsty Thursday. It's my best thing that came out of COVID. Awesome. Hanging out with my kids every day, obviously too, but for the podcast, definitely Thirsty Thursday. And there's a bunch of collabs in the work. I'm always deep in the world of collabs. I love creating and hooking up with brewers and pitching stupid ideas at them with stupid word puns with whatever's going on in the world. Vox&Hops hooked up with Overhop, which is a cool brewery that is both in Brazil and Montreal. And last November, for my 2-year anniversary, they brewed a New England IPA, double dry hop New England IPA. Crazy response, sold out immediately. The Brazil version of Vox and Overhops is happening. I think that's pretty cool, and it's supposed to happen again here in Montreal too.
That's fantastic, man. That's great. I'm jealous. I'm telling you right now. I was going to try and sugarcoat it and say a different word, but nope. I'm just jealous. This is awesome.
Everyone. You can do it. It's just planting the right seeds.
I'm just a bitter old man. I don't like collaborating. No, I'm just kidding. I love collaborating. But yeah, that's great, man. It's good to hear. We need more of it. People sometimes get aggressive about like competition and this, that, but it's not any of that. It's let's work together. That's how we all succeed. What's that old saying? A rising tide raises all ships.
Yes. And Jasta says that all the time.
Exactly.
But it's like the craft beer scene. The craft beer scene here, especially here in Montreal. Like you walk into a grocery store, let's say, where you can buy craft beer here now. So the whole beer section is just massive, just huge conglomerate beer section, right? Like just garbage beer. And then there's a small little section, that's fighting for, the craft beer section. So we have to take over from the big madness, gross, big market beers. And it's the same thing in podcasting. The more that we collaborate together, the more that the craft beer section will just keep getting a few more shelves, and it will maybe one day finally be equal. Right. Same thing in extreme metal. The more that metal bands collaborate together, the way that rappers have, the way that punk rock bands have, you can just grow your scene until it's, more and more people know about the genre, as opposed to fighting together, trying to fight over this same little bubble. Let's make the bubble bigger is what I'm trying to get at. Same thing with podcasting, everything.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate it when bands do that. Like I remember seeing Every Time I Die had, which I'm wearing the shirt of, they had a song with the dude from Fall Out Boy. And, they were in a hardcore band before Fall Out Boy, but still, he's known for Fall Out Boy. So when you say that out loud, like Every Time I Die has the dude from Fall Out Boy on, the elitists will be like, what? Why? Like that dude's in a singy dancy rock band, but
he's a good singer.
It's beautiful. Map Change is an incredible song. And you can create beauty from things that you wouldn't expect. I've grown up my whole life this way. Like I was when I felt at one point in my life, I was doing salsa dancing, and I went for a party. Like it was a Cuban traditional party that they asked me to dance for. And I had to go to classes to learn about it. And then I became obsessed. And I was the dude going to salsa class in my metal shirts. You know what I mean? Pantera, Metallica, fucking. They were just like, what are you doing here? I'm like, I don't know. This is fun. I can't deny how fun this is. So I'm always up to growing communities and everything. And it's such an important thing. Even in my day job is in the video game industry, and there would be no video game industry without a community scene for those games. If people aren't involved and, helping each other out, there's nothing.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, hey, dude, we're at an hour, so I'm going to let you go. We're going to wrap this up. You have a lot of things going on, so I'm going to try and break this down. Vox&Hops Podcast. How often do you put out episodes? Are you doing 2 a week or 1 a week?
I drop 2 a week. One Heavy Montreal Presents Vox&Hops episode, and then there is the Friday episode, which was my choice of episode for the week. Sometimes I drop 3. It depends what's going on.
Oh, wow. Ambitious. And you have your Thirsty Thursday get-togethers on Zoom as well?
Yes, those happen. I host the first Thursday of every month. The gang still hangs out every week. I'm there the first Thursday of every month. I love them. They're amazing. If you sign up to my newsletter, if you sign up to my mailing list, sorry, my Jessica just hearing me say that, I can hear her smashing me. My mailing list on my website, voxandhops.com, you can sign up to my newsletter there. My mailing list, God damn it.
Your mailing list. Yeah, and you have also the books, the children's books, Hidden Rainbow, recently came out. If you have kids, please pick those up, right? Where can they pick that up?
At miscelliamedia.com.
Miscellia, and that's M-Y? M-Y-C-E-L-I-A.
You read it out, sorry.
I'm reading the book. I'm looking at a picture of the book. So M-Y-C-E-L-I-A. Is there Instagram? Is there some website? Again,
there's Instagram and Facebook for that too.
Okay. And the band?
Cryptopsy. Yes, cryptopsy.ca, which will redirect you to Facebook because we don't have a website for the moment.
Okay. So cryptopsy.ca for Canada.
That's right.
You guys, social media as well?
Yeah, Facebook is Cryptopsy Official and Instagram as well. Cryptopsy Official.
And you got music you're working on, so that's something to keep an eye out for. Other than that, keep tuning in weekly for multiple episodes a week of Vox&Hops, man. Matt, thank you so much for having me on your show. Thank you for coming on to my show. I love doing crossover events like this, so it's fun, and I appreciate you giving me time in your day and life.
No, absolutely, Eddie. Huge pleasure, huge fan, and thanks, I appreciate everything you do, and just keep doing what you do. I love it.
Thanks, man. I'm trying to see. I have magazines around here somewhere, but if you're watching or listening, go to Decibel magazine. Go to December of 2020, I believe. That's the issue. Mm-hmm. And we're both on there.
Yeah, it was super cool.
You can get a magazine with both of us on there inside, and articles written by our friend Chris Dodge. And then whenever we do live shows and we're there, we can all sign each other's magazines.
That would be cool. I'd be stoked about that. I'd like to actually just see one to start, but
yeah, fuck, I wanna find it. I'm gonna find it for you.
We'll find it after,
and afterwards I'll show it to you. But all right, guys, thank you so much. Cheers to everyone.
Cheers.